All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive.
Absolutely.
Today, we're going to get into self-forgiveness.
Oh,
It's a big one, right?
it is.
And, I think everybody has experienced at some point or another that feeling of,
Yeah.
like, I really wish I hadn't done that, or I wish
Yeah.
you could take that back. And
For sure.
it can be so hard to move forward from that.
Mm-hmm.
So today, we're looking at this book, Moving Forward, by Dr. Everett L. Worthington Jr.
Okay.
And he has this really, I think, really cool model
Yeah.
called the RE-ACH model for self-forgiveness.
Re-CH.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to get into all the steps of that today.
All right, I'm excited.
I am too, and I'm excited to hear your take on it as well.
Yes.
So why don't we just jump right in?
Let's do it.
So the RE-CH model, it has 5 steps,
Okay.
and they are recall, empathize, altruistic gift commit,
Oh.
and hold.
Wow, there's a lot in those.
There is a lot
Packed in there. Yeah.
packed in there. And I think, when I first saw the model, the thing that really jumped out to me was that altruistic gift.
Yes.
Because I was like, wait a minute.
Forgiveness is a gift.
How can you frame forgiveness as a gift to yourself?
Well, I mean, it's kind of a radical idea when you first hear it.
Yeah.
But one of the things that Dr. Worthington talks about in the book is,
Mm-hmm.
if you think about what unforgiveness does,
Right.
if you're holding on to all that guilt and anger and resentment,
Yeah,
it really is like carrying around a heavy weight,
it is.
right? It weighs you down. It drains your energy.
Yes,
It prevents you from moving forward in your life.
totally.
And so forgiveness, in a sense, is the act of putting that weight down,
Okay.
of releasing yourself from that burden.
Okay.
And that's really the gift that you're giving yourself.
Yeah, it's a really good way to put it.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't mean that what happened wasn't important or that it didn't have consequences,
Right.
but it means that you're choosing to move forward from it in a healthier way.
So I think that kind of leads us into the first step, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is recall.
Recall.
So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So this is the step where you really just kind of sit down and you acknowledge the hurt or the mistake
Right.
that you made. You try to do it in a very clear and concise way
Mm-hmm.
without, either downplaying it
Right.
or exaggerating it.
Right.
It's not about beating yourself up.
Yeah.
It's about just acknowledging what happened.
Right. So like, for example, if you messed up like a big presentation at work,
Yeah.
you would just say, okay, I messed up the presentation because I didn't prepare enough.
Right.
And that made me feel incompetent, like that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Just stating the facts as they were.
Yeah, just the fact.
Okay. So then we move on to empathize.
Yes.
And for me, this is one that I really struggle with, I think,
Okay.
because I can be really good at empathizing with other people.
Right.
But when it comes to myself,
Yeah.
I'm like my worst critic, Yeah.
That's very common.
So can you tell me a little bit about like how to actually put this into practice?
Yeah, so it can definitely be tricky, but it's so important because, when we make mistakes, a lot of times we're not at our best, right? Maybe we were stressed out. Maybe we were sleep deprived. Maybe we were, dealing with a lot of other stuff in our lives.
Yeah.
And so this step is really about recognizing that and trying to have compassion for yourself
Okay.
in that moment.
So it's like thinking back to that time and being like,
Uh-huh.
okay,
Mm-hmm.
what was going on with me? What was my emotional state?
Exactly.
Like, what were the circumstances that led to this?
Yeah.
And trying to almost be like an outsider, looking in and saying,
Mm-hmm.
you know what, given all that, I probably would have made that same mistake too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like asking yourself, would I treat a friend this harshly if
Yeah.
they made the same mistake?
Yeah.
And chances are the answer is no.
Right.
So you're trying to extend that same compassion to yourself.
Okay, so then we've acknowledged what happened. We've tried to have a little bit more compassion for ourselves. Then we get to the altruistic gift.
Yes.
So how do we actually give ourselves the gift of forgiveness?
Well, I think it starts with understanding that forgiveness isn't about condoning what happened or saying that it was okay.
Right.
It's about recognizing that holding on to the guilt and the shame
Mm-hmm.
is only going to hurt you
Right.
in the long run.
Keeps you stuck.
Keeps you stuck. It prevents you from healing.
Yeah.
It prevents you from growing.
Yeah.
And so the gift of forgiveness is really the gift of freedom.
Go ahead.
It's the freedom from that negativity, from that self-judgment.
So I'm not saying like, oh, that was fine, it doesn't matter.
Right.
I'm just saying I'm choosing to let go of the negative feelings associated with it.
Exactly. You're choosing to release the burden and move forward.
Okay. I like that. I like that a lot. So then we have commit,
Commit.
which is step number 4.
Yes.
And I think this one is really interesting. Because it's so easy for those negative thoughts to just kind of creep back in.
Oh, absolutely.
So how can we make a commitment to self-forgiveness that's actually going to stick?
Well, one of the things that Dr. Worthington recommends is actually writing it down.
Okay.
You know, taking a piece of paper and actually writing a commitment to yourself to forgive yourself for what happened.
So like I forgive myself for.
Yeah, I mean, you can phrase it however you want,
Okay.
but the act of writing it down can be really powerful.
I can see that.
It's like you're making a promise to yourself.
Yeah.
And it's something that you can refer back to when those negative thoughts start to creep in.
Right, because like you said, those negative thoughts are always going to come back up.
They do. They're sneaky.
Yeah. So having something to remind yourself like, okay, I already made this commitment to forgive myself. I can just like move on from that.
Exactly. It's a reminder of your choice.
Okay, cool. So then last but not least, we have hold, which is all about maintaining self-forgiveness over time.
Right? Because it's not a one-time thing.
Right. It's a process.
It is.
So what are some of the ways that we can kind of make sure that we're holding on to that self-forgiveness?
Well, there are a lot of different things you can do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some people find that affirmations are really helpful.
Okay.
You know, repeating positive statements to themselves about forgiveness and self-compassion.
Okay.
Other people find that mindfulness practices are really helpful. Just kind of noticing those negative thoughts when they come up
Yeah.
and choosing not to engage with them.
Right.
And then other people find that taking positive actions is really helpful.
Like what kind of positive action?
Well, it could be anything that kind of reinforces your commitment to self-compassion.
Okay.
So maybe it's volunteering your time.
Okay.
Maybe it's doing something nice for someone else.
Mm.
Maybe it's just taking care of yourself in a way that you haven't been.
Okay.
It's really about finding what works for you.
So like creating new habits that kind of support this idea of self-forgiveness.
Yeah, building a lifestyle that supports self-compassion.
I love that.
That's great.
So, I mean, this has been a really, I think, helpful overview of the RECH model.
Yeah, it's a really powerful model.
Yeah. And I think the thing that I'm really taking away from it is that it's not just this like airy-fairy concept of like, oh, just forgive yourself.
It's
Actually,
there's steps you can take.
there are steps.
There are things you can do to make it happen.
Exactly. It's a process.
And Dr. Worthington has done a lot of research on forgiveness.
He has.
And it has been shown to have some really incredible benefits for people,
Oh, yeah.
like reduced anxiety, stronger relationships, even physical health improvements.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And he's even created a journal to kind of help people work through these steps.
He has. It's called the REACH Model Self-Forgiveness Journal.
Yeah. I think that's a really cool resource for people.
Yeah, it's got prompts and exercises for each step.
Okay. Awesome. Well, this has been such a great conversation.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Me too. So just to recap one more time.
Yes.
We've got recall, empathize,
Altruistic gift.
altruistic gift commit, and
Hold.
powerful stuff. It is powerful stuff. So before we wrap up, I just want to leave everybody with this thought.
Okay.
What if practicing self-forgiveness wasn't about being easy on yourself, but about being wise?
Ooh, I like that.
Like, what could you achieve or experience or create if you weren't carrying around the weight of all those past mistakes?
That's a great question.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.